Hey, it's Tim for Golden Gravel Cycling. Thanks so much for joining the live cast today. Michael and Chris are going to walk you through their entire brew house and show you what it takes to take their product from raw ingredients all the way up to their famous beers. Today's live stream is going to be about 20 minutes long, and after that I'll be in the Facebook group. Look on the events page for that group and go ahead and I'll be in there during the live cast as well as during the whole event. Michael, Chris, and I have spent a lot of time on this, and I think we've come up with something that you're really going to like. I'm really happy with it. I think you're going to love it. And today is just the beginning. Today is the tour, and after that, for the rest of this week, starting at 7:30 tomorrow evening, I will be live casting a section of our discussion, our interview. I sat down with Michael and Chris after the tour, and we talked about where they came from, kind of where they're at, what they see with the Rock Island Trail and how that's impacted their business, and then also where they see their business going in the future. So it was a really great conversation, a lot of things I think you're really going to like. Definitely try to make that 7:30 in the evening, Monday, going through the rest of the week. We'll have a section of that interview every day. Lastly, I'm also excited to tell you that our next podcast, episode 5 of the KCCN, is going to be with Mr. Brett Dufour. He is the author of the much spoken about, much reviewed Katy Trail Guidebook, as well as the Katy Trail Nature Guide, and also the Missouri Guide to Missouri Wine Country, as well as other books. And I'm going to be sitting down with him and talking about his Katy Trail book and how he put that book together, what that process has been like, how he's maintained that book over the last several years, and then also his new project that he's starting this year, which is the Rock Island Trail Guidebook, which is going to be one of the other longest trails in Missouri. He knows more about the Katy Trail than just about anybody else I know, and probably at this point knows more about Rock Island Trail than just about anybody I know, because he's writing a book on it. So you're going to get to learn about him, and I'm excited to introduce you to him if you've never met him before. He's a great guy, really interesting, does all kinds of cool stuff. So today, like I said, today's going to be the tour, about 20 minutes long, and then every evening, 7:30 at night, starting on tomorrow night, we're going to have a section of the podcast of the interview, and we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff with Chris and Michael. So they're really great guys. They have a really awesome business, and they have a great passion for being involved in the community and helping people out. So without any more hesitation, let's get started. I hope you love it. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you, and I'm looking forward to doing questions here in just a little bit and talking with you about it here after it's over with. So take care, God bless, and
I do tours all the time, so usually I talk about the filters there.
all right.
So each one of those has about 1,000 pounds of activated charcoal, and that's to filter all the water that goes into the beer. Yikes, what was that? Oh,
Chris is fixing the light.
Yeah, so anyway, each of those have about 1,000 pounds of activated charcoal.
Wow.
So
that's what you're cleaning up your water
and
with?
that's, so all the water that goes into the beer is filtered through there.
We've got pretty good water from the city, so there's no chloramine. You know, that filters out the chloramines. We don't really have any phosphates or sulfur or anything like that. We treat the pH in the mash.
Okay. Just to try to get it balanced so that it's consistent.
Well,
A consistent profile. Yeah, it's one of the variables we can control.
Okay.
Most important thing it does take out the chlorine, which can cause off flavors.
Right, yeah. Because I'm sure the chlorine's probably not very good for yeast.
Right. So, I always tell people to watch their step here.
Oh, thank you.
I've only had to pick up a few people.
Pick up a few people, huh?
So, we start the brewing process by milling the grains, and it's done here in the grain mill.
Anything that's got a husk, even wheat, rye, spelts, barley, obviously kind of breaks it up, makes it a little bit more accessible. So that way, when it gets augered along this white tube here, and then goes over to this kind of square vessel over here, which is called a grist case. And so a lot of breweries, the grist case is right above the mash tun, but with our ceiling height, it works out we can use it like a grain hopper. So when we're brewing one day, we can go ahead and mill in for the next.
So here's your pipe. So you're coming from here, and then that's just coming down to the bottom here, following this
It's
tube.
got a coil inside that'll send the grain.
And that follows that tube up, follows this tube. Trying to use my camera properly here. This tube up right here, and then over to that other side.
So that kind of square top. And so then it'll fall into there and settle, and then the next day there's another coil auger at the top of the mash tun.
Okay.
That then once they start the mash process, we can then auger all that grain, drop it right into our tank there.
Got it. Okay.
Heading the camera in there.
Yeah, sure.
The grain is steeped in hot water inside the mash tun here. And Chris has the lights on. So the grain steeps in hot water here, and there's enzymes that are naturally in the grain that convert the starches into fermentable sugars in the process.
Okay.
It takes about an hour, and at that point it's creating a liquid called wort, W-O-R-T, super saturated, super sweet. And from there, the wort then is pumped into the boil kettle over here. And it's boiled for about an hour.
Okay.
Depending on the style of beer, hops are added at different times during the boil. And like I said, it takes about an hour. And after that, the wort is then, so it's wort until it's fermented with yeast. At that point, it becomes beer.
Okay.
So basically, brewers are just making wort. It's the yeast that turns it into beer.
Okay.
So after the boil, which takes about an hour, the wort then is pumped through a heat exchanger and then into the fermenters.
Okay.
And we can take a look at the fermenters.
So this right here. So this is where you guys are doing a lot of your work.
Yeah.
So this is all of your all of the work that you guys have done, all the grain and everything's going in here, and then you're just mixing it.
So yeah. So all of this here together is considered the brew house.
Okay.
It starts out. This is a hot liquor tank.
And
it's basically a 1,000-gallon hot water heater.
Yeah, gives us 180-degree water on demand between brewing or sanitizing, cleaning. We'll use it for. In the mash tun, you might notice when the wort's pumped over, the grain left in there. We have a farm that comes down and picks it up for their hogs, Oddbird, which is what our lager is named after, is Oddbird Farm. And then we're working with the process to slowly increase the amount of corn we use for that lager from Oddbird Farm. And then we get the hops from that beer from Kansas Hop Company, and so it's kind of fun. That's like a truly local beer.
So pretty much all of your resources that you're using are coming locally. So your water's locally, your grain's local.
We import a lot of us from most of our beers, a lot of our barley and other grains and stuff we bring in, but that one's special because we'll be able to access the corn that they grow to use for that beer.
Oh, that's so cool. That's really neat. Okay, so you were talking about, so this is the brew house.
So yeah, so this whole area we consider the brew house. And then from here, basically this is to create wort. And from there, the wort is pumped and actually literally goes through the hole in the wall in a hose. We'll just pull the hose through there.
All right.
Pretty fancy process.
You know, it works.
And then, so these are the fermenters.
Okay.
The beer will stay in here 10 to 14 days, depending on the style of beer. And the yeast, of course, is added for fermentation. And
so these are our original 5 tanks. Then as we expanded, we bought a bottling line. We added more capacity this way. While the brew house is steam jacketed, these are all glycol jacketed, and we don't filter any of our beers. So the best we can do is more traditional, but if we are able to drop all these temps down to in the 30s or below, that causes everything in the beer to kind of fall out of suspension into the cones here. Okay. So any extra yeast, hops, fruit will fall down to the bottom. We can then rack off the clear beer off the top and then dispose of the waste at the bottom. Okay. And then that'll go to our bright tanks. Okay. But like you said, this is kind of a brewery day, depending on the size, 8 hours, anywhere, not including setup and then cleanup afterwards. Right. This is kind of the more limiting factor, is just finishing out that beer, and the bigger the beer, sometimes the longer it takes, if we're adding fruit, if we're souring it first. Okay,
so basically, you can do a lot more volume over here than you can do over here, so this is really what kind of limits how much you can actually create.
Years in the road, we might have tanks that are 4 times the size. It just means we're doing a lot more brews on that one system to fill up the individual tank. So like our brew house is 15 barrels left up, and so our biggest tanks here are 30 barrels, so we're brewing back to back with those ones to fill up these tanks.
Cool. So like, all of the beers that you make go through that one system there,
Yep.
but then they're fermenting here, and then that kind
all of the beers go through that and are fermented here.
right. But so then you would just kind of split out depending upon what you're making goes into a different
Yep.
tank.
Right.
essentially.
And a lot of different profiles, obviously, between the grain bill, the yeast we're using, again, if we're souring it in the beginning process, and then all the fun we can have with different, fruits and adjuncts and stuff.
That's cool.
So, and what Chris was talking about, after fermentation, we drop the temperature down with the glycol, and then that causes all the solids to clump together and drop toward the bottom of the cone, and
Right.
then we can pull relatively clear beer from the valve that's higher up, as you can see.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
clear beer will come out of the valve that's higher up, and from
Right.
here it gets pumped into the bright tanks in the other room.
Okay, that makes sense. So basically, all of your particulate, all your everything that's in the beer comes down below that tap right there and settles
Right.
down in here on the bottom, and then you pull everything out from there.
Right, and,
Okay.
and actually the first thing it drops out is the yeast, which we can actually collect that to reuse that at for another beer at a later date.
Okay.
So after fermentation, the beer will get pumped into one of these tanks. Ooh, we got something in there. These are bright tanks. Chris is stealing some beer. So which beer is that?
This is Hipster Buzzwords.
Oh.
So this is an IPA that was brewed with hops that were donated by one of our suppliers, Hollingberry and Sons.
Need to use the squirter.
And then we are lucky enough to host the Master Brewers Association, the Great Plains Division here
Really?
in a couple weeks. And so we got the hops from them so that way we can brew this beer to share with all of them when they're in town.
So cool.
And then we have some on tap as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's really neat.
Yeah.
So is that something special that you guys are doing? Kind of a special type of brew that you guys are doing specifically for that? Or?
It gets us access to, so even though we've been open, for 6 years coming our 7th anniversary, there's still a lot of things like hops that are contracted out, and hops are kind of like wine grapes, depending on where they grow in the world. There's a lot more research and kind of hybrids and cultivation to get different flavor profiles.
Right.
So compared to traditional hops that we've used in the past, now we've got hops that can give you flavors like berries and coconut and citrus and tropical fruit. So this is a fun one because we got to play some hops that we've never used before.
Huh. That's really neat.
So from these tanks also we fill kegs, and then also it will be pushed into our canning line here. After fermentation, it's really important not to let oxygen get to it. So whenever the beer is transferred, it's done by pressurized CO2.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Let's see this.
That is a lot of wine.
We've got a lot of orange, a lot of like pineapple
get
and
that.
passion fruit.
And that's all from the hops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
I can definitely smell the pineapple recognition. I didn't.
Oh yeah, and that's totally from the hops. That's good.
Wow, that's delicious. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's about as fresh as a beer will ever be. Pulling it from the bright tank like that.
Goodness sakes.
So, anyway, so you want to come around this way. You can see a little bit better the canning operation. So cans are lifted with a stacker here onto the platform, and from the platform will tilt up, and the gravity fed, it will come down through here, and they're turned upside down here, and then here they get rinsed with filtered water.
It's a loud process.
Yeah. So that's a vibrator that keeps shaking the can so they travel
I
through.
got you. So it kind of shakes them so they
Shuffles
come
them
down.
down.
You come down through here.
Then it's turned right side up here, and then here it's filled 5 cans at a time.
Okay.
And from there, this seams the lid on, and then down here labels go on, and then it's
Morning,
packed
Chelsea.
off. They're packed off here and go onto pallets.
Okay. So where are you pulling your beer from these tanks
From the
over
bright
here?
tank, yep. So we'll run the line over, and
gotcha.
there's a really interesting hose here that breaks it all down into the different heads.
Okay.
So that creates the best fill process as possible, because you're wanting to fill beer that is at different carbonation levels, and you're wanting it to not break out of suspension while you're filling the kegs. You're trying to, keep it filling consistently, but also do it at a reasonable speed, so you're controlling oxidation and just, efficiency.
Right.
So it took us, when we first started packaging, we started with this wine filler, and we still use it sometimes when we're doing barrel-aged or wild fermented beers into bottles. But that would take anywhere between like 8 and 10 people, unloading bottles, labeling, date coding, sanitizing, purging with CO2, filling the beer, capping down the line. This we can run with about 2 people now, and it's made it a lot easier to manage, just between calling friends in and calling people in to help us package best. It's helped us quite a bit, and it's more efficient, being able to package better beer. Cans have been a game changer for us, just because being in the Midwest, it's better for the beer in a lot of ways, because it doesn't let light in, it doesn't, it stays sealed better than a bottle does over time. But being in this area, if you're traveling, biking, camping, tailgating, fishing, golfing, all the places you can't take glass, and cans are more recyclable.
Right.
So it's been huge for us to get this line in place.
Cool. There's a point in my career where I basically made those electrical cabinets for a living. So I'm really curious what lives inside that cabinet, because I've probably worked on stuff like that before.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Did a lot of pneumatics and
switch valves.
Low voltage control voltage.
Low voltage controls and stuff. Yeah, I built so many of those things. It's funny.
You can actually, I don't know, open here on the brew house. It's very similar.
Okay.
Open.
Pretty easy access. Usually appreciated. I think they do a real clean job. It's pretty simple.
Oh yeah.
Pretty simple.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's your PID controller up there. Your thermal controllers here.
Technically, we have this hooked into our internet, so you could almost control some of these functions with an iPad, but we haven't really taken too much advantage of that.
That's cool. I love it. And I like your guys' branding on it. That's so neat.
Our distributor did that. Yeah, that was a gift when we got the brew house, and our distributor did that for us.
That's awesome. Very cool.
And so that's from this side, and by this side I mean, like, we talk about like steel and a lot of clean fermentation, even though we use bacteria. Most of the beers on this side, we've got a pretty good idea, either between the styles we're brewing or the fruits we're adding, the hops, how something's going to turn out. We don't do as much big scale experimental stuff. And so that's pretty much it between brewing, fermenting, and packaging. On the other side, I can show you the barrel room.
So this is basically your production line. So all the stuff that you guys have kind of figured out how you want to make it, what do you want it to be like, this is all happening over here.
Most of the stuff we distribute, or that we know we're going to do in a volume big enough to can and send out, is usually done on this side.
So he briefly mentioned bacteria. So what he's referring to is our sour beers. Sour beers are soured with cultures of lactobacillus.
Okay.
Lactobacillus is the good bacteria that's in yogurt and probiotics.
Right. Okay.
It's also the good bacteria that's in our bodies, that's in our gut. And but for us, lactobacillus consumes and metabolizes sugars and creates lactic acid, which is tart like citric acid.
Okay.
Also, I'll never say that what we do is better than what some other people do, but what we do is different from what others do.
Right.
And by doing it the way we do, all of our sour beers do contain live cultures. So it's
better shelf life, more development over time.
Yep. So I mean, you can't really talk about the health benefits of beer, but everyone knows it's certainly better for you than soda.
Right.
But it's all natural product, of course. But the cultures of lactobacillus, that we actually had the opportunity to get our beer tested, and there's 40,000 CFUs per milliliter.
Really?
But I did the math on it, and to actually equal one culturel probiotic, you only have to drink 700 beers.
Well, that's not bad.
You'd have to be able to hold 700 beers to get the same amount.
Yep. So it's just fun to talk about.
That is fun.
Yeah. And it's the sour beers are fun because obviously most of them we fruit. They're usually lower ABV, so you can drink a lot of them. And they're good gateway beers. So we have a lot of friends who are like wine drinkers or cocktail drinkers. We've done wine festivals where people came up and like, I gave up on beer 20 years ago because I thought everything tasted like this, this, or this. I didn't know that there were so many different flavors. And that goes for most beers. I feel like people who say they don't like beer, just haven't always been given the time to really sit down and try a lot of different stuff.
Because I mean, the stuff that you guys had me try over there tastes almost more like a fruit kind of a cider as much as it does like a beer.
And that was not even a sour beer. That's just all from the hops.
Yeah.
Really?
So there's people that say they don't like IPAs, and I remember early on when someone said that, one of our partners said, "Well, have they tried every IPA?" Because it's a huge difference.
Yeah, same with like dark beers. People who are into like coffee or chocolate, dark beers can be a good gateway. I don't know. It's definitely a lot of fun, kind of figuring things out for folks.
That's cool. That's really neat. Thanks for sharing that.
You bet. So in our barrel room now, it's Saturday morning, so getting ready to setting up for a barbecue. They do a pop-up here every Saturday, and we also do other events in here.
Okay.
But this is we've got another bar.
Turn down the tunes.
Yep. So this is an event space. Another bar here.
Man, it smells fantastic in here.
Big
That would be
stain,
Heart Barbecue
projection
operates out of
TV.
here too on Friday evenings and Saturdays.
Really?
They are incredible. They've been ranked nationally some of the best barbecue. They've been listed as best barbecue in KC, best in Missouri. So if anyone hasn't gone down here and is a fan of barbecue, they're definitely missing out.
It's actually been listed in like the top 13 in the country.
Is it really?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of they don't take any shortcuts. They do it long and slow. They spend a week just prepping everything for it, and then they come here early Fridays and are smoking all day Friday, overnight, and Saturday. So time and wood is apparently what makes good barbecue.
Yeah, they start serving at 11 and usually sell out by 2.
Wow.
So. Yeah.
But other part of the barrel room obviously is our barrels. And so when I kind of talked on that side about we've got a lot of control and a good idea of how beers are going to turn out, this is to some degree, we'll we just brought in a bunch of new fresh barrels, and we're actually this year going to be rebuilding our barrel program, working with different distributors and wineries and brokers to get us some stuff. But when we've got a certain beer in mind that we know we want to age it in a bourbon barrel or a wine barrel, we can usually get that profile out of that barrel once, maybe twice. And that's where a lot of breweries would then get rid of that barrel because they've gotten rid of all that character.
Right.
For a lot of our wild fermented beers, these are still really good environments, kind of little micro environments to where we can empty a barrel from a wild beer and then refill it pretty quickly, and it's just going to take off that much faster. Mm-hmm. But this is where we can experiment with different wild yeasts, different Brett's from laboratories, different bacterias, not just lacto, but also like Pediococcus. And the fun part on this side is we could get 4 barrels from the same distillery, fill it with the same beer. After a few months, a year, every barrel is going to taste a little bit different, and then that's where you get into blending.
Right.
So this is kind of where some of the magic still happens.
This is you're almost talking kind of like a scotch or a whiskey kind of a style over here, where you're brewing stuff up and then you're mixing and blending and
Blending and giving it time. And so
Yeah.
a lot of these, while on that side we know beer's done because it's hit terminal gravity, it's fermented out. With these, with wild yeast, they will keep chewing and keep eating on whatever compounds are less, creating more and more unique flavors.
Okay.
And so really at that point, we are checking gravity, we're checking pH, but really the beer's ready when it's ready. And so that's kind of fun to see, like, do we pull it now or do we let it go for a few more months? Do we hold one barrel because it tastes really good and we know we want to blend that into something else? But all of these are kind of what we call our cellar series. So those are ones that we still bottle and we keep on hand and let them age and develop, and that most of them you can only get at the tap room.
Okay. So for one of these beers over here, these are kind of special projects that you guys do, and that people can, at certain times, you guys will crack one open and then sell them out.
Yeah.
Or put them in the tap room or something like that.
We're starting a new series this year called Cellar Sundays. So one Sunday a month, we'll promote it on social media stuff. We'll kind of re-highlight those beers, probably do some specials, kind of be a good day for people to come in and kind of experience and share and really ask questions.
That's cool. That's really neat.
I can't get my hands on any of those bottles, so like Chris stacks them because he's the monkey that can climb up all of those cases and grab those beers from way back there.
And compared to the brew house area or the brewery, this is the only other temperature controlled area besides the tap room. And so this is also where we store a lot of our beers right before they go out to our distributors. So like Monday we'll be wrapping up an order going to St. Louis. And the week after that we'll be wrapping up a good order for our Kansas City distributor.
Okay.
Actually, it might be good to show the smokers out there because everybody on the trail needs to stop and get some Heart Barbecue.
All right.
That's
do it.
Tyler Hart out here. Take a look at those smokers out here.
Let's
It's
do it.
very impressive. And then the stuff that comes out of those smokers is even more.
bet it is. It smells fantastic, man.
So far, so good, I think. A little wet out here.
Into the light. Look at that.
Yeah, so he's got two 1,000-gallon smokers out here.
We'll have them both going by spring.
That's pretty neat. So where do you get those? Where do you get a smoker like this from? Is this something somebody makes, or do you kind of do this on your own?
Find a custom builder for it. For sure.
Yeah.
This one comes from Southern California, and that one came from Texas.
Huh. That's really neat. So do you guys have a specific kind of wood that you like to use for your smoking, or how do you like to?
We use predominantly white oak. There'll be some red oak mixed in there from time to time, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mainly white oak and red oak, and that's about it.
You can get a pretty good shot of the fire going in there. It looks pretty cool.
That's neat.
Go there.
Wow, that's really cool.
Right here.
Cool.
Your back was to them. They peeked their heads through the door.
Oh.
That kind of go.
Well, thanks for showing me around. This is a really neat setup. Appreciate you showing me around.
I was going to come back in here and try to rip a board off a pallet to stick under my tires. My car got stuck last night. In the snow.
In the heat right in the
That was a slow day. We're still obviously working on it, but that was a slow day project about a week ago.
So who does your label?
We used a couple different artists, and ones that we kind of feel like get our vibe. We've invited other artists to kind of help with us when we've done special collabs or something. So like when we did a collab with Casual Animal, they actually designed that label. And we're actually in the process this year of kind of resetting and rebranding a lot of our stuff. You can tell a good difference. So like this is our original Omar label, and we decided we want to take a lot more back to like the 3D kind of origami shapes almost.
Right, yeah.
And then kind of consistently saying, the name of the beer and where things are. What's another good example? See if there's an Oddbird label up there. I don't think there is.
So did you say you fell down?
Oh, no.
That could not be good.
Don't have another example. Oddbirds, one, same deal. This used to be kind of almost looked like a Oktoberfest type label,
right.
And then we brought it back to something that would be an Oddbird, would be a super fun, colored,
cool.
peacock.
Yeah.
And it's got the Oddbird logos and Ken's Top Company logos on there.
That's awesome. I love how you kind of have your origami, kind of built into that geometric shape thing going on there.
So the hope is, especially with our core beer, stuff that we brew all the time, Farmhouse IPA is another one that you can see the difference on. So this is the old label of Farmhouse IPA,
Yeah.
and then again trying to get back to that consistency.
Right. So you kind of have more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of not pastel, but more of a not glossy color, kind of more of a
More matte, and then having that kind of color shift for all of them. And so the goal is getting back, because you can see where we kind of went all over the place with some of our art in the past, that we really enjoyed these projects, but we wanted to get back to a place where if somebody sees our beer on the shelf, even if they don't know which beer it is, they're like, that's a Crane beer. Like, I'm going to go pick that up and check it out.
Kind of has that matte color to it. It has an origami kind of look to it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Other than that, we talk about sour beers a lot because we enjoy brewing them and we're definitely known for them.
Yeah.
But I think especially if someone hasn't visited our tap room, they may not know that we do a lot more than just sour beers. We have a year-round porter. We make a lot of IPAs. We make a lager. And so our saying has always been Mo Sour, like Missouri Sour, but now we've kind of gone with the Mo Than Sour. And then rebuilding our barrel program too. So we're kind of this year really taking this time to sit and say, like, who are we? What do we want to do? What beers do we want to put out and share with people? What are we passionate about? And so those have been kind of our three big things.